where, I think, whoa, where'd you go? I was clicking the wrong thing. My name is Vanessa Olson. I am one of the teachers here at St. Boniface Diocesan High School. And we're very happy today to have virtually at our school two wonderful people who have agreed to come and speak in honor of Black History Month and just to help us kind of learn more about the community around us. So I have my homeroom is here. My camera is on my computer though, and it's kind of fun to try and turn around. To our guest speakers, you'll see not a lot of names, but most of those names are like teachers who have a large segment of our cohort B students who are in school today. And we're getting a smattering of some of our cohort A students who are logging in. So I might be adding people as we go through. So anyway, so why don't we kind of kick this off, and as people come, I will kind of add them in and such. So, thanks to all the cohort B students who are here today, and for the remote students and or cohort A students that are logging in, wanting to keep learning about different things. That is a good thing. So I'd like to welcome Mrs. Titi Tijani and Mr. Jamie Moses to our virtual school today. We're very happy to have them come and share with us today during Black History Month. It's an opportunity for all of us to learn and grow through the experience of others in our community. Each speaker will have about 20 minutes. And after that, if there are questions, we can explore those as well. Teachers, if you are signed in here, oh, okay. Jeff, I see your message. So if you have questions, what you can do is you can type them in chat, or if you feel brave, you can turn on your camera and you can state them. That'll be fine. So if there's any questions before we get started, again, Mr. Lesage, I see that you do not have video, but you're hearing me clearly and hearing us clearly. Oh, one more. No questions? Okay. So let's get started then. Our first speaker is Mrs. Titi Tijani, who is the president of the African Communities of Manitoba Incorporated, and someone who's been at the forefront of the Black Lives Matters rallies in our city. ACOMI, which is the short form for African Communities in Manitoba Incorporated, works to carry out and promote programs, projects, and activities for the encouragement, support, and advancement of the African community in Manitoba. This includes culture and human heritage. So she's going to talk to us for a bit about the history of Africans in Manitoba. So welcome, Mrs. Tijani, and I will here just. Do I want to change the host? Yes, I want to change the host. So there we go. Take it away, Mrs. Tijani.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Hello, and thank you for the invitation. I do like to have a PowerPoint so I don't ramble on. And so hopefully I'll be able to do 20 minutes. And if there are questions, I will entertain them. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Share screen. Okay. Okay. All right. So again, thank you for the invitation. Thank you to the organizing committee for inviting me, and thanks also for celebrating Black history, Black accomplishments in Manitoba. And we're happy to be here to share with you some of the things that we have been doing over the years. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge and respect the land that we're in by saying that I acknowledge that we are standing on Treaty 1 land, the land of the Anishinaabe people, the Cree, Oji-Cree, Dene, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. Before I begin, I'll talk to you a little bit about a background and then some of the profile, social, political, educational profile of Africans here in Manitoba, and then a little bit about a Black History celebration and some unfulfilled expectations, some of the things we are still working on. So let me move the pictures away from my presentation. So in order to appreciate the profile of the African community in Manitoba, I thought I'll provide you a brief historical overview of the continent from which Africans migrated to Manitoba. Africa is the second largest continent in the world. It is not a country. It is made up of 53 countries. Africa's population is about 1.3 billion people, and that's about 17 of the world population, according to the United Nations. The largest countries in Africa are Algeria, Democratic Republic of Congo, and followed by Sudan. And the most populous country is Nigeria, with over 206 million. That is the 2020, according to United Nations. And I happen to come from Nigeria. So population, lots of people is not new to me. So where do Blacks come from, or their path, to Canada? The first area was two parts. So some came from the United States. Those that are fleeing slavery from the United States, fleeing the laws of slavery, went up north, and that's how they came into Canada, and that's in the 1700s or early or late 1600s. And the other part was through migration directly from Europe, from Africa to Europe, and Europe to North America. So Africans have lived in Manitoba for as long as many other racial groups in the province. But it's not until the end of the Second World War that Africans began coming to Manitoba in significant numbers. The African community has grown appreciably. They have built and grown with the province. And as of 2016 census, there's about 30,000 Blacks, people that identify themselves as Blacks in Manitoba. And appreciably also, I believe in the past 4 years also, the number will have increased. And the majority of these people live in Winnipeg. So their migration path, African Manitobans, yes, they are from the ones that came from Africa, are from almost every part of Africa. Most of them came in the 40s after the Second World War, and majority of them came as students. Africans love education. Education is key to success, as we believe, and so we will seek education wherever it is, knowledge and education. So some came as students starting from West African countries and all the way to the East African countries. And some also came as professionals. So those who migrated to Europe to study, when they finished their education, some of them came over and migrated up to Canada. And the last part is refugees. And those are the ones that came as political exiles from other parts of Africa, beginning in the 70s to date. So as there are wars all over the world, Canada, take part in helping out. And so they open doors to people that are being fleeing persecution. And so they came in, they are here as refugees. So we still see a lot of refugees. Some of them are individually sponsored. Some of them are government sponsored. And once they come here, they continue to seek the Canadian dream. So our students, in general, like I said, that's how many came to Canada. Some of those who are settled in Manitoba, they first lived in other parts of Canada before they migrate to Manitoba. mostly in Ontario, as that's the first path to coming to Canada from Europe. And it wasn't until the 80s that the majority of students, generally once they finish their education, they come here to study and acquire necessary skills, education, knowledge, training, and expertise to enable them to be able to return home so that they can go and develop their homeland. That's the reason they come here to learn. But after a while, some of them do return back to their hometown, home country, and some get married to Canadians, and so they stayed, here, and that's how we begin. So in those days, there are no paths to students able to stay after their education, but now through changes to immigration, and Manitoba also has done that, many students can now apply to stay permanently after their education. So the professional migrants are mostly the young people that finished their education in Europe and did not wish to return home. So many migrated to Canada, and a number of them ended up here in Manitoba. But unfortunately, they were disappointed that they were not able to work, and I mean work in their field of education. So mostly doing very menial jobs, house help, and so on and so forth. And so the last group were the refugees and exiles who came here after the Civil War, from Civil War and wars of political independence, and from fleeing away from persecution. And that has been happening since the 60s, and it's still happening to date. So, once students came, so everything started for students. So, and as we're all social organisms, we need to support one another. And so the first support started from the university. And so the first organization was the African Students Association. So all students of African heritage banded together to support one another. And through this, then as the population of students grew, then each country started to form their own association. So you have the Nigerian Association, Ghanaian Association, student associations in schools. Now, once the students graduated and they are now working, they are professionals, they are married, they are living here, there's also a need for them to band together and support one another, as well as support those that are coming. And that led to the first organization that was founded here in Manitoba, is the Afro-Caribbean Association of Manitoba, that's ACAM. And it's a combination of Caribbean people from the Caribbean origin, and also people from Africa coming together, and hence the name Afro-Caribbean. And so that was the first organization. And I think years later, they also joined Fokorama to showcase the African culture and the Caribbean culture. And we still have ACAM in Fokorama today. And so from ACAM also stems many national and ethnic organizations or associations in Manitoba here. So now that we have a lot of them, there was a need to have umbrella organizations. And that's what gave birth to COMI. That's the African Communities of Manitoba, who supports all the African organizations and associations. And then we have CICOM, that's the Council of Caribbean Organizations in Manitoba, who also is the umbrella organization for all the Caribbean associations right here in Manitoba. So these associations, help to support newly arrived Africans and Caribbean people to adjust and adapt to Manitoba. And they also organize annual social events, including Fokorama. I think we have a number of these organizations are now also part of Fokorama. So various of these organizations have building facilities. Some do, many don't. And ACOMI, that's my organization, has a resource center in the downtown Winnipeg on Kennedy. And our goal is to build an African center, to build a home. We have been here for a while, and we want to have a home, a place where we can call home, right here in Manitoba. And so that's our goal. And hopefully, some of you will be hearing about our need, as time goes on. So you can't talk of Africans without politics. I'll tell you, we love to talk about politics. We love to criticize the government, whether government back in our hometown or government here. Yes, we love to feel that we are part of it and we can make a difference. However, with the amount of time and energy that Africans, when they are together, always talking about politics, you would think that many will be involved in politics. That was, I'll say, unfortunately, that's not the case. That was unfortunate now in the past, because that has just changed recently. And your next guest speaker, was one of those who actually changed that. And so I just highlight a few firsts that we have, in Canada. And so as far back as 1965, you have Lincoln Alexandra, who was an MP in Ontario. Then he became a cabinet minister in 1979, and in 1985 became the lieutenant governor of the first one in Canada. And then we all know Michael Jean, that's Governor General of Canada. And of course, that was an appointment, but we've changed that in Manitoba here now from 2018. So starting from Marcus Chambers, first city councillor, Uzoma, Audrey, and Jamie, who are now a member of the Legislative Assembly. And as recent as last month, Audrey Gordon became the first Black cabinet minister in Manitoba. So we are very happy about this accomplishment. We know that representation is key, and the more that we see these people here, it motivates other Black children, youth, to get into politics, because that's where the change happens. So we're happy and congratulate all the ones that have made the first in Manitoba. So culture, I won't go too much into culture. Everybody have their culture. I'll just highlight a few. Marriage and family is key to the African community. And of course, we have several languages. As many people that come here come with their languages. And the good thing is that as Africans here, we bring our culture with them. And Canada being a multicultural society, Africans are able to celebrate their culture and language while learning and celebrating the Canadian culture and heritage. And Folklorama is the perfect one for us here in Winnipeg. So we are part of the fabric of Manitoba, and also being able to promote our culture and share with everybody else, which makes Manitoba a very multicultural society. In terms of education, I'll tell you, Africans prize the pursuit and attainment of education over and above every human endeavor. Education is key for Africans, and we ascribe very high value for education, and so we seek education in all countries of the world. There was a sample survey of educational attainment in the African community right here in Manitoba, and it showed that there is no shortage of academic professionals and the technical know-how within our community. If anything, the problem that we have is the non-use or underutilization of the skills and knowledge of qualified men and women. And our community is a very knowledge, resource-based community. For example, at University of Manitoba, I think the African population is the second highest to China in University of Manitoba. So people are still seeking to educate themselves, to better themselves, because we see education as the key to ending poverty. That's the way our parents taught us, and that's how we continue. And so, yes, so we are very highly educated. Most Africans, in Manitoba here have a university education. Economics, yes, we are part of the economic fabric of Manitoba. There are high labor participation rate for African Canadians here. In Canada in general, there's about 77% rate of labor participation, but here in Manitoba, the labor participation is about 84%. It's not unlikely to see many people of African heritage working 2 jobs, or even some 3 jobs to survive. So we're very much contributing to the economy of Manitoba. And in businesses, most general nature of the businesses in the community is that all of them are family-oriented. Some of them are registered and some are not. But lately, with the changes in the immigration, there's an immigration stream for businesses. So it allows for more formal and established businesses to occur through that business stream. And the community organizations are also working to support those businesses that are not registered to become registered, as they also have access or difficulty accessing funds or to maybe expand their business and also to come out. So that's some of the things that ACOMI will be working on to support African businesses here in Manitoba. So celebrating Black achievements, I will say that this has been something that has been happening here in Manitoba for the past 40 years. I'm not sure, maybe we're the first one that kind of recognize it in Manitoba here, and we pay homage to late comrade Wage Kojo Williams, who at that time felt the need that that there was maybe so many negatives about Blacks here, and thought that we need to begin to celebrate ourselves. So of course it started very small, and then over the years, got the support from the city of Winnipeg, province of Manitoba, and now 40 years later, we're still celebrating the accomplishments of Black people in Manitoba. Of course, in Canada in general, to make Black History Month recognition, February, that happened in 1995. So Canada is celebrating 25 years, while Manitoba is 40 years this year. And some of our accomplishments was also ACOMI's contribution and working with the province in 2009. We work with the government to work on a way to recognize internationally educated immigrants to have access to fair assessment and registration that lead to employment. So basically, to recognize international credentials and find a way to assess them fairly so that people are able to work in the field of their choice and their career. So and that not only benefit Black people, but it benefited all immigrants to Manitoba. And we can see that in the Manitoba economy. So as we continue to look for the Canadian dream, Manitoba dream, there are still some unfulfilled expectations that we are continuing to work on. And those are obstacles and barriers that's inhibiting some of us fulfilling the Canadian dream. So there's need to work on employment practices, employment equity. There's still some racial discrimination, and we definitely, Black people are very resilient and will do anything and everything in their power to accomplish the Canadian dream. So we do have the will to succeed, and like anything else, if there's hope, there's an opportunity, and you'll continue to work to that success. So in conclusion, most Manitobans of African heritage are hardworking. Many own their own homes, businesses, and they contribute to the Manitoban economy. Many are visibly working in high-paying professions, and they have this positive and inspirational effects on the youth. They are good role models. It's good to have people up there so that the youth can see the opportunity so that they can continue to pursue their education. Black Canadians are beginning to see a more positive attitude and understanding from the larger society, and we do stand to achieve more with support, understanding from our community and from our larger society. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, can I make myself the host again? That's the question. Oh, I can't? Oh, Mrs. Tijani, can you make me the host again, please?
Oh, I have to do that. Okay.
Thank you. I want
I have
to.
to. I have to learn how do I do that again.
I believe
Okay.
you click on my
Vanessa,
picture.
yes. Okay, I
Yeah.
see more. Make host.
And
Absolutely.
Sweet.
Done.
There we go. Thank you very much, ma'am. I want to say thank you for that wonderful outline of the presence of Africans in Manitoba over the last, decades and century, right? I loved especially hearing about the businesses and different opportunities and that for people to work in. Our student government has been working very hard on their Instagram page promoting businesses, Black-owned businesses this month. So it's something that's standing out and sort of amplifying voices of going on. So thank you again, Mrs. Tijani. And now, without further delay, we're gonna hear from Mr. Jamie Moses. Some of the older students might be a little more familiar with Mr. Moses. He's not a stranger to the SBDHS community. He's given a lot of time as a head coach, especially for the varsity boys basketball team. And having worked in financial and agricultural areas, he passed the magic number and now is a member of the Legislative Assembly as the MLA for St. Vital and operates as a critic for economic development and training and speaking up on issues of affordability. Thank you, Mr. Moses, for coming to talk to us. And I will shortly make you the
okay. I don't have a presentation. I'm just going to talk.
That's okay. This way, you have the power, sir.
Well, thank you so much, Ms. Olson, for that introduction, and thank you for inviting me to speak today. And thank you for engaging your students in the school across all the classes in Black History Month. I think that's really important to be engaged and learn and take a proactive approach in not just history of one culture, but the way it affects all of us in our lives, because we're all interconnected here. And so it's really important to understand those connections in the history and build off all these things that have happened to us in the past and already, so that we can continue to grow in our community. Also, thank you to Titi Tijani. It's a pleasure to hear your kind of a presentation, the history you've given. So thank you very much for that. And especially thank you for the land acknowledgement. It's important to acknowledge the land that we're gathering on virtually today. So I'll just talk a little bit about my history, a little bit of kind of what's inspired me over the years and some of the things I'm working on. And I'll definitely leave room for questions. So I might only go for about 10 minutes or 15 minutes or so. Like was said, I'm Jamie Moses. I'm the MLA for St. Vital. I am born and raised right here in Winnipeg, but my parents immigrated from Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean, one of the most southern Caribbean island. They immigrated in the early 70s. Myself and my older siblings were all born and raised here in Canada. And so this is, Canada is my home. I fully consider myself Canadian. And it's important to recognize that the definition of Canadian is more than just maybe what we might see in pop culture. Definition of Canadian is vast. It's people who've been here one generation, two generations, maybe 5 or 10 generations. Maybe they have history, indigenous ancestry, and they've been here for much longer. But all of those things combined are what give Canada its identity. And so I tell anyone who's been here, who lives here and is calling Canada their home, to really call themselves Canadian, because their presence of being here And being part of our community makes Canada what it is. And so it makes our communities, whether it's Manitoba or Winnipeg or St. Boniface, it makes our community what it is. So your presence in itself is valued. So growing up here, I went to St. Alphonsus Elementary School, and I went to River East Collegiate for high school. Growing up in those communities, there was not very many other Black people around in my schooling, in my education. I was one of the few. My school at River East had roughly 1,200-ish students, give or take, between grade 10, 11, and 12. There's a 10 to 12 and about 1,200 students. And I would count, probably less than 2 dozen, probably less than 20-ish Black students in total. So not very many at all. So, I mean, of course there were challenges. Of course there were things that were, I would say I was pretty lucky, especially because I had older siblings who kind of paved the way for me before that. And I would say so I didn't have many instances of intentional or overt racism directed towards me, but there were definitely things where people didn't understand. They just hadn't come across things. They didn't know what could be considered insulting or racist at the time. And so of course those things happened. But, going through those experiences, has an effect on people. And I'm sure a lot of people, a lot of you guys listening to this have experienced some of those things. I think what it does, and I can share from my own experience, what it did for me was to really question your confidence. And it makes you question your own self-worth or your own value. And I know that's what it did for me. And some of the ways I was able to overcome that, especially as, growing up in junior high and high school, was to look at the things around me that I really, that were really good in my life. So, I had a really strong family unit. They were there to help and support each other as we faced challenges growing up. But also I had a love and still have a love for sports, for athletics. And so that's really what I wanted to throw myself in. And by going and doing that and playing pretty much any sport I could find, soccer, football, basketball, and putting myself through that and finding the love and the passion for doing that gave me a self-confidence that no insult or racism could take down. And so I was kind of finding that ability within myself to find my own success. After I graduated high school, I went to university and I got a degree in agribusiness and wanted to give back through sport because it meant so much to me. And so I started coaching. I coached basketball. I coached a little football as well, River East, and of course at St. B there for, almost a decade now, I think. I spent at St. B. Which I absolutely loved, and I still love coaching, although the time commitment is not one that I can have right now. But for me, it was about, using the skills, the knowledge I had for something I really was passionate about and loved, and then giving that back to the community. And I think that's something that is also been common throughout the history of Black peoples, regardless of where they've been. You've seen so many examples of Black historical figures taking what's been done by previous generations, learning that information and sharing it and using it to build off of that. We've seen these things with the monumental accomplishments by some huge Black figures. We're talking about the actions done by Rosa Parks, right? And how that led to the things that could be done by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., right? And him building off that legacy and the change and sparking the huge civil rights movement. We look at even the things that were done by Rosa Parks. It was that protest and that drive to give up. I'm sure that was inspired by even other great accomplishments done by people like Harriet Tubman and others. And today we see accomplishments done by people like Barack Obama in the States, and Michelle Jean, and was outlined by Mr. Tijani. And these people all built off each other. They learned about the history. They understood what it meant. They looked at how they can use those tools and skills in their own lives to create a better future for all of us. And to me, that's really what Black History Month is all about. It's about understanding, taking the time to understand what that history means from those, especially from those big figures, but also learning a little bit about maybe the lesser known accomplishments, and also perhaps how and why some of these stories might not have been told in conventional history. And just by understanding the fact that maybe part of the story isn't being told in conventional history will allow you to understand how racism can take its form, right? And how you can go about in your own lives to fighting against racism. And so, myself, I wanted to give back in my own life, and I did that through sport, but I also continued that through a lot of community work. After I got married, we started giving back in the community, volunteering at community center and resource center, and then seeing the impact that those, decision makers at the government level, provincial governments, were having on some of the programs that those organizations could offer, really showed a light to me that the impact that politics and politicians have on organizations that are just trying to help people. I was at work volunteering at a resource center, helping programs for newcomers to Canada. And often, many of them were from African nations, and they were cut funding because of a political decision. And so, I wanted to get involved instead of sitting on my hands and kind of complaining about this. I wanted to get involved and see if I can make it into a positive. And so I got involved in politics, started volunteering. I was able to get my name on the ballot in 2016 and ran a competitive race, lost by a couple hundred votes in 2016, but then stuck to it and had the perseverance to go through in 2019. We had built a really great team of people around us, and I was fortunate enough to get elected in the fall of 2019, and now as the MLA for St. Vital. But like I said, this is built off of this kind of accomplishment of the three of us being elected in 2019 was built off of the accomplishments of so many other people. And I do credit TT and her organization and all the people around there for supporting so many Black people, and just giving us the confidence that we knew that there were people who would support us and be there if there were difficulties or challenges. I look back at, as she mentioned, at Marcus Chambers, who was elected before us as the first Black city councilor. And even years before that, I believe the first ever Black elected official in our province was Inez Stevenson, who was elected in the 1970s as a school trustee. And I believe she was also if I'm not mistaken, I believe she was only the second Black female ever elected to any position in the country at that time. But we stand on their shoulders. They built so much for us, and we stand on their shoulders. Oops. Okay, so I want to say that in my role now, we are fighting to make our community more diverse and more equal. Some of the things that I'm doing right now is I've introduced a bill. Bill 212. It's called Mandatory Training for Anti-Racism and Human Rights. I'm fortunate to have the support of a Comey with that bill. And it is to ensure that all government employees are trained on human rights, on anti-racism, on implicit bias, so that they understand the impacts of racism, they understand how to proactively fight against it. It's still being debated in the House, but I'm going to work to try to see if we can get that to a vote and possibly get passed. Since I'm in opposition, that is a challenge, but we will work, and I'll work as hard as I can to move that bill forward, because not only demonstrating equality, but even just simple fact of people in my position, in leadership positions, saying that it's a priority and it's something that we should all work towards is a step in the right direction. But in other ways, we fight for equality, and just some areas that recently we know there needs to be strides made to making sure it's equal for everyone. We talk about healthcare in this pandemic. there are so many studies that show that people of minority group, Black people, have been affected more negatively because of the pandemic, and we need to address those issues and find solutions. We know that in education, whether it be in K to 12 education or through post-secondary education, the education system sets barriers up for people of Indigenous and Black and people of color. There are barriers that they face that are higher than other folks, and we need to break some of those down so that we level the playing field. And we also know that when it comes to income inequality, that has a much larger effect on people who are visible minorities. And so ensuring that employers have fair hiring practices and an equal treatment for all employees is really essential. And I just want to end by saying that, this Black History Month is not just meant to learn about the history, but also to find ways for it to be meaningful into your life and to show you all that there are ways that you can be impactful in your own life to make this that kind of negative history not happen again and make a positive future. So the history for me has always been a tool to learn, but more so a tool to inspire us to find better ways to move forward, to be our motivation to create better futures. And not just me because I'm a politician, but you in your everyday lives, whether you're doing it with your classmates, with your teachers, with your friends, with your family. It's important to look at it in the lens of how am I making this world, my own little world, a more equal place, a place that has no tolerance for hatred or inequality. And there's a important phrase I heard the other day. This is not a race versus race issue. This is everybody against racism, right? And so, if we can find ways in our own world and our own circle of and network of people to make it a more equal community, then we've done a good job. And then we've learned the lessons from Black history, and we are making our place, our world, a better place to live in for everyone. So that's where I'll end it, and I'd absolutely love to have questions. Thank you.
Would you be able to throw back the hosting duties to me? That would be wonderful. Then we can set that up. My chat, where am I going here? Oh, no, I have to take you all with me if that's the case. Okay. So, any questions that you would like to ask either?
Yes, I have a question.
Uh-oh.
Hello, Jamie. Long time no see.
Hello, good to see you.
You're much too modest. I just wanted to make sure all of our students know what a tremendous role model you were for all of our students and all the hard work you put in an effort, also raising a family and doing all those things for us was tremendous. Jamie was and is a tremendous athlete at high school. He was, and I know still is active. And I just wanted to know if you had any kind of motivation for all of our students that and everybody else has been unfortunately not being able to play sports, obviously, for this past year and have missed out on a lot. Do you have any things you could help us motivate our students to stay active and get ready for next year's season if they're in grade 9, 10, or 11?
Oh, it's so good to see you. I'm happy to know that there are so many students who are still very interested in sport. It's a love that doesn't end when you stop playing, and I'll tell you that for sure. I played football through university and then still played touch football and straight to stay active as possible. And it is so hard to want to do something that you love and you're really passionate about and not be able to do it. And so, my only words are that, this is something, the attitude and the drive and the passion, the determination, the all those things that you love about sports, whether it's volleyball, basketball, track, all those things you love about sports are skills that you're going to learn and carry with you for the rest of your life. And you might not be able to do it right now, but those are fantastic skills to have and carry with you. And so think about all those things. Even if you're not able to go out and physically do the sport you have, mentally think about the things that you want to get out of that sport. And I know when I play, I didn't consciously acknowledge these things, but now looking back on it, there's so many life lessons that I learned about teamwork and determination. And so those are the skills and those are the things that you should try to think about in sports, even if you can't physically do it right now. So that's the only thing I'll say to you. But I would also say, look forward to the day when you do have that opportunity, because it's a lot of fun.
Thanks, Jamie. And then when this is all over, I'm challenging you to a one-on-one match when you get back. All right?
You got it. You got it.
Thanks. Thank you.
Any other questions? Anybody? I'm curious, Mrs. Tajani, what brought you to Winnipeg originally?
That question, yeah. I also ask myself, especially to a cold city like Winnipeg. Well, lucky for me, I came to join my husband. So yeah, he came back to Nigeria. He was living here for about 10 years. Then he came to Nigeria, we met, and lucky me. So I came back to join him. And I remember at the visa office when I went to get my visa, one gentleman asked me, I says, where are you going? And I said, Winnipeg. And he asked me, do you have lots of sweaters? I said, I do, but it's not the same. When I got here, I came in 1987 and I arrived here on December 20, 1987. So yes, it was, yes.
Wasn't that the year of the big storm?
Yes, it was, yeah. So when I came here, I looked back to his question and I said, yes, but it's not the same sweater. Yeah, so I came to join my husband, and I have 3 kids, all boys, all grown up now. My youngest one is 25, and he's actually studying at University of Winnipeg to be a teacher. And yeah, and yes, and I was a teacher in Nigeria. I was a home economics teacher in Nigeria. And then when I came here, that's part of the credential recognition issue. My credentials were not recognized, so I had to go back to university to redo my degree. So I did human ecology, but I didn't choose education at that time. I said, I just want to, because I felt like I was repeating my degree and I just wanted to do it as quickly as possible. And so I chose still human ecology, focusing on families, and my minor was in aging. So it's all about helping people and supporting the community, yeah.
Okay.
So all for teachers.
Yay, yay, teachers. Yay,
Yes.
coaches. Any questions? I keep looking at my homeroom and they're like, please don't ask us. Please don't ask us. Any questions? No? Anyone else? Okay. Then I guess maybe we'll end it there. Again, I just want to say thank you to Mrs. Tajani and Mr. Moses. Some form of this will appear on social media and or YouTube, so that for those students who weren't able to see this in person or as it was happening, that they'll be able to access this. But thank you very much for your perspectives and your stories. One of the courses I teach is history, and I talk about all the time that, we have to start listening to stories and understanding whose perspective is being told, and that we need to hear voices that haven't been heard before traditionally, and that needs to change. So definitely, thank you very much. Mrs. Tajani, hopefully we'll be able to see you around here or something like that once everything kind of calms down. Mr. Moses, do politicians really do much? I think you could still coach. No, I'm kidding. Thank you very much for your service in public life. And I tell my students that it takes a very special personality to be a politician and get involved in politics. And that resiliency and determination and everything. So thank you very much for sharing that with our students over the years and for sharing it today.
Thank you very much. Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
For sign off? Thanks. I just wanted to say, and you made me think of it when you're talking about your history class. And I just want to say that, this year, beyond any other, is a historic moment. This past year with COVID, with what's been going on with, kind of a racial awakening, and what's been going, even with economic crisis is happening. These are all historic moments, So if you're someone who doesn't understand or why the importance of history, we're all literally living through one of the most historic moments and time periods that we might face in a generation or two. And so, I think to anyone who's, not sure about whether they like history, just you read the news right now and you'll know that it's going to become history. But even more to the point is that because we're living in history, what you do can make history. So if you're passionate about something, get involved and be active, and what you can do, what you say, can become historical. So just keep working on your passion and find the motivation to go forward on it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Moses. Thank you again, Mrs. Tajani. I want to say thank you, a big thank you to the committee of people that we've kind of been working together at getting this all together. Mrs. Herr, Mr. Omatiora, Ms. Walker, Ms. Thiessen, Ms. Romaniak, Mr. Barrick. So this wasn't an individual job by any stretch of the imagination. So thank you to all of them. Thank you to our student government who's working really hard at connecting with that. Yeah, just thank you. And may you have the rest of your day be awesome, and the weather not hurt our faces so badly as it has been. So
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Nice to see you, Jenny.
Thank you very much. Good to see you.
Yes. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Have a great day. Happy Black History Month.